Mochi Health is here to help you start your weight loss journey with caring, personalized support. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who truly listen and understand your unique needs. Eligible patients can access affordable GLP-1 medications delivered right to their door each month. No insurance? No problem. Mochi Health accepts FSA and HSA, making care accessible and affordable. And with 24/7 customer service, you'll never feel alone on your path to better health. Get started with Mochi Health today. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com with promo code AUDIO40.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 218 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I know you and I talked about this on TCAB, but we both had a very good Father's Day.
Yeah, we did.
Mine was almost like a 3-4 day period. My kids were pretty much willing to do whatever I wanted.
Well, you got a lot of kids out there.
Watch my two children. They were willing to watch whatever I wanted to watch. They went and got me popcorn, made me popcorn.
Wait, what's different from any other weekend with them?
No, that's not how they act normally.
Oh, okay.
They were going above and beyond. They were really making me feel special. I appreciated it. You and I have a lot going on.
As always.
As always, we're trying to work ahead because my daughter has her annual national dance competition. It's in Gatlinburg, so I'm going to be off for a full week, so we got to get ahead.
Wait a minute. I have a competition that same weekend down there.
Well, you're probably in the same group as she is.
The same category?
You'll probably be competing against her.
I'm going to.
No, I've seen your jazz hands, man. They are subpar.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your pot of beret is not where it needs to be.
But my outfits are pretty cool.
I'm not even sure if I'm saying that.
I make my own outfits.
Yeah, they're not really meant to be seen by a bunch of little kids in the audience.
Yeah,
but
I warned.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Last year, I definitely got warned about that.
So we need to give our Patreon shout outs. We had Nathan Roderick.
Hey, Nathan.
Tanya Price.
Thank you, Tanya.
Nicole Bueller.
Bueller.
Charlie Nicholson.
Hey, Charlie.
Holly Lindsay.
Well, what's going on, Holly?
Jessica Rodriguez.
Hey, thanks, Jessica.
Crystal Matthews.
What's going on, Crystal?
Rachel Aldrich.
Hey, Aldrich.
Bruce Courier.
Well, come on, Courier.
Jai Smith.
I like that name, Jai.
I hope I'm saying it correctly, but it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kaylin Marie.
How you doing, Kaylin?
Ashley Campbell.
Well, appreciate that, Ashley.
Brian Mansell.
Hey, Mansell.
Amanda Mazzola.
What's going on, Mazzola?
Millie Goves.
Well, Millie.
Aaron Neal.
Hey, Aaron.
Ashley Wild.
What's going on, wild and crazy wild Ashley?
Eileen.
Hey, Eileen.
Stephanie DeMarco.
What's going on, DeMarco?
Kristen Cleveland.
Well, Cleveland, how are you?
Elizabeth Doyle.
Hey, appreciate that, Elizabeth.
And last but not least, Dennis Rader.
Well, hey, Dennis, how's prison going?
BTK himself.
Yeah.
Always interesting when you have a serial killer name. And I think you and I kind of touched on it on our weekly Patreon episode, but you know, there are some people that are named not after serial killers, obviously. Right. I don't think too many people name their children after serial killers, but if you're of a certain age, you would have been named that before this person became known. And then what is it like after that person becomes infamous and all that? Kind of goes back to the Joel Rifkin Seinfeld episode type deal.
It's just always freaky when I hear his name or see his name because you have that bobblehead of him over your shoulder.
I do.
That's constantly staring at me.
I do.
So it's a little freaky.
Keeping you in line.
It does.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, This week we selected Renee Boyle.
Hey, Renee.
So big shout out to Renee and to all the people that continue to support us on Patreon.
Love it.
For PayPal, we had Jennifer Benson.
Hey, Jennifer.
Eric West.
What's going on, Wes?
And Helen Ornelas.
Ornelas.
So thanks to everyone who helps support the show. It's very much appreciated.
Very much.
Gibbs right now on True Crime All the Time. We have an episode out on Ronnie Hendrick. You know, this is a guy who murdered his girlfriend and almost got away with it.
Yeah.
After making the police believe that she killed herself. So it's an interesting episode, and it really was the work of a determined sheriff and the victim's daughter who grew up and became an adult that really helped solve this case after many years.
Yeah. Very good episode. Hey, if you're going to go to CrimeCon next year in Vegas, you can get 10% off the standard price, but you have to use our code.
Which is TCAT.
Yeah.
TCATT. So they just released our code, and I know a lot of people are excited about Vegas. And if you haven't bought your ticket yet, if you're going to, make sure you use our code. CrimeCon gives Gibby and I a little help, a little bonus in getting out to Vegas. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
In January 1984, Aurora, Colorado, suburb of Denver, experienced 4 separate but brutal and savage attacks on single women, couples, and a family of 4. The crimes went unsolved for 30 years until advanced DNA testing. After that, genetic genealogy helped identify the person responsible as a middle-aged man who was currently serving a 110-year sentence for crimes he committed after his wave of Colorado attacks. Because this case may be going to trial soon, the autopsy reports, crime scene reports, and DNA collection reports are available on the Freedom of Information website, which is the source of much of the following information. The Denver Hammer murders, which sometimes are also called the Aurora Hammer murders, and the Colorado Hammer murders of 1984 remain unsolved for over 30 years. A suspect has recently been identified through a DNA hit in Codis, but the case has not yet been to trial. In the early morning hours of January 4th, 1984, 25-year-old James Hobbinschild and his wife Kim were in bed asleep. Around 2 a.m., an intruder entered through an unlocked garage door and made his way to their bedroom. He attacked them viciously with the claw side of a hammer, hitting them both multiple times in the head and in the chest. The man attacked James first to incapacitate the larger male, and then immediately turned his attention on Kim and delivered some of the same savage blows to her head. James suffered from multiple skull fractures, and Kim suffered a serious concussion. She was also raped during the attack, while James was unconscious in the room, unable to help. But fortunately, James and Kim would survive this attack. According to news reports that came out following the attack, investigators did not have many leads to go on to solve this crime. Both victims suffered severe head injuries, making it impossible for James to provide a description, while Kim could only provide a partial description of the attacker. Police couldn't identify a motive, and they ruled out burglary as the motivating force behind the attacks. They did discover some footprints from the suspect leading up to several homes in the area as he tried to find a way inside. But it was the house belonging to James and Kim that he found he was able to enter because they had forgotten to lock their doors that night.
Yeah, and there's several people I know that don't ever lock their doors. Never have. And they say they never will.
I think which to you and me and to most people listening sounds like a bygone era type thing.
Yeah.
Right? That sounds Mayberry-ish. You know, I was watching the movie Annabelle, the scary movie Annabelle the other night with my wife and kids. And it was set like in the late 60s, maybe 1970. And they were talking about, okay, he didn't lock the door. And she was saying, you can't do that anymore. It was following the Charles Manson cult murders and all of that. So now we're 1984 here. Now, I think they did lock their doors. I think they just forgot.
Right.
And they made that statement to police. But for you to say that there's people in 2021 that don't lock their doors, that for me is hard to understand because I don't see the benefit that you're getting out of it. All I see are potential negatives and some really bad ones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're even go on vacation and leave their door unlocked. This other couple I know, and I'm like, why? Why would you do that?
5 days later after the attack on James and Kim, 28-year-old Donna Dixon was at home on January 9th in the late afternoon. She was happy to be home. She had a few days off from her job as a flight attendant and had just completed some errands in preparation for her fiance's return home. He was a pilot. She was a flight attendant. Donna pulled into their driveway. She hit the remote garage door opener and parked inside the two-car garage. She opened her door and reached for her uniform to bring it inside, and that's when she was blindsided by a blow to the left side of her head, causing her head to bounce off the steering wheel. Donna's attacker then tossed the hammer into the car seat and dragged her from the car onto the floor. He tore off her clothes and scattered them around the garage as if he was in a frenzy. He dumped the contents of her purse, took money and valuables. Then he violently raped her as she lay unconscious on the concrete floor. Donna didn't regain consciousness until the next day when her fiance returned home and was able to revive her. She was naked on the floor of her garage in the middle of a Colorado winter.
Man, she's lucky she didn't die of hypothermia.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have both spent quite a bit of time in Colorado. Obviously, it gets very cold there. I mean, just imagine, I think, Gibbs, both of these individuals. Number one, the fiance, he returns home to find Donna naked on the floor. She wakes up and realizes that she's naked on the floor in her garage, probably freezing. Donna's fiance called the police, but because of the severe blows she suffered to her head, she had no recollection of the attack. Investigators would piece together events from the crime scene and Donna's injuries. Donna and her fiance went on to marry in May 1984, just a few months after her attack, and it was really Gibbs before she was even fully recovered. I think Donna was determined that she was not going to let this man who attacked her steal her life, her happiness. She was going to live her life as she had planned.
Good for her.
And good for her. And I think a part of that was going through with her wedding. She would have had every reason to postpone it, given her the fact that she wasn't even recovered from her injuries. But she said, no, we're going through with this thing.
Yeah. Not going to let this stop me.
The next victim in this series of crimes was Patricia Smith. Patricia lived in the Green Mountain area of Colorado. She was an interior designer. She had moved to the Denver area to help her daughter Sherry with her children because Sherry was going through a divorce and had just started a new job. Patricia, her daughter, and her grandchildren all lived together in a townhome. On January 10th, Patricia was attacked by the Hammer Killer, but police didn't initially tie it in with the other attacks. She was found bludgeoned to death in her home by her daughter and grandchildren after she failed to pick up her daughter from work. When they arrived home, the entry door to the garage was wide open, with Patricia's car parked inside. Police determined that she was attacked between the hours of 1 and 3 p.m. So, Gibbs, the killer's first two victims, survived. Then he murdered Patricia. So we can see that the attacks were escalating and eventually got to murder. Patricia was found on the floor of her bedroom and her head was covered with a comforter from the bed. Despite not being able to see the horrific wounds her mother suffered, Sherry knew that her mother was dead. She ran to a neighbor's house to call emergency services. Once they got on the scene, detectives discovered that Patricia had been raped and bludgeoned to death in what they called an extremely brutal murder. They found blood and a partially eaten hamburger near the front door, leading detectives to theorize that Patricia had been surprised by her attacker when she came home for lunch. So Gibbs, what they thought was that she stopped off at a fast food restaurant on her way home, was in the process of eating this hamburger. As she entered her home and was attacked, the bag of partially eaten food was found in the living room of the home.
And it did have a receipt in it that had a time stamped on it for 1:10 in the afternoon. So
that probably is where the investigators kind of came up with their window of time.
Sure.
Sometime between 1 and 3. Well, it couldn't technically be 1, I don't think, if she didn't pick up the hamburger until 1:10, but they're given this window. After raping and murdering Patricia, her killer dumped out the contents of her purse, stealing the small amount of cash that he found inside. Patricia's autopsy revealed that she was killed by repeated blows to the head with an auto body hammer.
Yeah, those are a little funky looking. They have like a really flat end on one side that looks like a really thick quarter. And then on the opposite side is a really pointy end. They use them a lot of times to bang out dents and things like that.
But it also sounds like they would make an extremely brutal weapon.
Yeah.
Especially the pointy side.
Absolutely.
And we talked about a claw hammer. Claw hammer's rough, but it's not quite as pointy, not quite as penetrating as this type of auto body hammer.
Yeah.
On January 16th, 1984, less than a week since the attacks on Donna and Patricia, the killer targeted the Bennett family. The family had just moved the previous Thanksgiving to their new home in Aurora, and this was something they were very excited about. The Bennetts had married in their late 20s. They had 2 daughters. Melissa was 8, and Vanessa was just 3 years old. Bruce and Deborah Bennett started life as step-siblings when their parents married, but soon found themselves in love.
Kind of like a Brady Bunch romance, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little Marcia Gregg type deal. 27-year-old Bruce Bennett had been in the Navy. He had worked on high-tech sonar equipment at Pearl Harbor, and at the time was working at his family's furniture business while taking classes to become an air traffic controller. 26-year-old Deborah Bennett worked at the Bennett's furniture store. They were a happily married couple and were working on building a great life with their children. On that Sunday evening, they held a family party to celebrate Melissa's upcoming 8th birthday. The last party guests left at around 9 p.m. that night, and they noticed that the garage door was still open. They mentioned it to Bruce, but Bruce said that it was okay because he planned to run to the store before they went to bed. Sometime between midnight and 6 a.m., an attacker wielding a hammer entered the Bennett family home through the open garage door. The next morning, Constance Bennett, Bruce's mother, went to the home because neither Bruce nor Deborah arrived for work at the furniture store. The garage door was still wide open, and she walked into a nightmare, Gibbs. Bruce was crumpled at the bottom of the stairs. So she immediately called the police, and she left the residence to wait for their arrival. When police arrived, they found Bruce dressed only in his underwear, which was completely red, soaked with blood. He had numerous wounds to his head and body, and his throat had been cut ear to ear. Blood soaked almost every inch of the walls and the floor and the stairwell, leading to the second level, which housed the bedrooms and the upstairs bathroom. A later autopsy on Bruce's body indicated that he suffered a deep wound to the bridge and right side of his nose. He also had a wound to his ear that had almost split it in half. He sustained cuts to his fingers, one of which was almost completely severed. Now, what I found interesting was that it was said that the cut to his throat would not have been life-threatening by itself, and it was believed to have been caused as he struggled while his attacker held the knife to his throat, likely trying to control him. I mean, I think a lot of times when you hear about somebody's throat being cut,
Right.
and especially when the term ear to ear is used, you think that's cause of death.
Yeah.
I mean, in the movies, that is blood everywhere. The person bleeds out very quickly and they die. So I thought that was interesting to hear that from the medical examiner. So I don't know that it was maybe as deep of a cut as what we would think of when we hear the term throat slit or throat cut.
Right.
But that would make sense if you're struggling with your attacker. You know, maybe the knife is moving back and forth, but it's really just because you're struggling against it.
More of a superficial wound.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably a pretty bad wound, but it couldn't have been deep enough to sever the carotid artery, because I think once you do that, it's over.
Game over. Yeah.
There's so much blood loss in such a short amount of time that you can't recover from that. Bruce suffered 16 separate wounds to the top of his skull, leaving his skull shattered and depressed into his brain. Those wounds were caused by the claw end of a hammer. His cause of death was due to multiple skull fractures and contusions to the brain. So, Gibbs, I mean, when you hear all of that, this was an extremely vicious attack.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, it's just the brutality is incomprehensible.
Walking up to the second level of the home, investigators discovered Deborah. She was face down, dead, lying on the floor of the master bedroom at the foot of the bed. She was naked except for her underwear. Investigators theorized that she had been in bed asleep when the attack occurred, and she was still partially wrapped in the sheets from the bed. Deborah's head and hair were soaked in blood, and she was laying in a pool of blood. One of her teeth was found on the floor across the room.
Man, she had to be hit pretty hard for that to happen.
Yeah, I think that indicates an extreme amount of force. A pair of blue jeans and a wallet were on the floor nearby, with the wallet's contents dumped and scattered. The drawers of the dresser and nightstand in the master bedroom had all been pulled out, and their contents had been rifled through. The attacker was ransacking, looking for valuables. Deborah's autopsy showed 5 deep wounds to her right shoulder, caused by the claw end of a hammer. She also had a wound over her left eye, one to her ear, and several on her face. She had 5 wounds on the top and the back of her head. She had a broken jaw, was missing several teeth, one of which was found in her stomach content. There was no evidence of sexual assault. Melissa was found dead on the floor of her bedroom in the northeast corner of the home. She was naked and her pajamas had been cut off at the waist. She had been viciously raped. She was lying on her back with her legs spread apart, and a large amount of blood was found in and on her genital area. Both arms were raised above her head, likely held there by her attacker to immobilize her, and she had several cuts to her hands, most likely as she tried to defend herself from this stranger's brutal attack. Melissa's autopsy showed that she sustained 9 blows to the front of her head, inflicted by the claw end of a hammer. Her skull was caved in, and her brain matter was visible. She also sustained deep cuts to her right hand. which were believed to be defensive wounds. She had deep lacerations to her vaginal canal caused by the sexual assault. Her official cause of death was a compound fracture to her skull.
It's rough.
Yeah, this is extremely rough, Gibbs. The murders themselves are brutal. But on top of that, the sexual assault of children, small children.
Yeah.
This is extremely hard to get through. I mean, there's no way around that. Vanessa was lying in her twin bed in the room that she shared with Melissa. She was badly injured, but still clinging to life. Her tiny body was soaked with blood, as was her bedding and a teddy bear that she slept with. Vanessa had been beaten so severely with a hammer that the bones on the left side of her face were shattered. Her skull was split in two, and she sustained significant frontal lobe damage to her brain. She too had been violently raped. And while Vanessa survived this attack, she would bear the scars and collateral damage of the attack forever. Investigators believe that Bruce fought mightily to prevent the attacker from reaching the rest of his family. Deborah's purse was found outside the home, her cash and valuables missing. A large butcher knife from the Bennett kitchen was found outside near the driveway, and it's thought that it's most likely the weapon used by the attacker to cut Bruce's throat. So, I mean, Gibbs, if we think about this entire scene unfolding, it sounds to me as though Bruce encountered the attacker and was trying, as a dad would,
Sure.
as a husband would, to thwart the attack and keep this guy from getting to his family.
Doing anything and everything to stop it from occurring.
Yeah. I mean, he was unsuccessful, unfortunately, but it does seem as though he put up one hell of a fight and did everything he could. According to Fox 9 News in Arizona, Bruce's mother, Constance, raised Vanessa following the murder of her family. She struggled over the years. She developed severe anger issues. It's unknown whether those were due to the traumatic brain injury or the emotional trauma she experienced. It could have.
Craving your next action-packed adventure? Audible delivers thrills of every kind on your command, like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, where a lone astronaut must save humanity from extinction, narrated with stunning intensity by Ray Porter. From electrifying suspense and daring quest to spine-tingling horror and romance in far-off realms, unleash your adventurous side with gripping titles that'll keep you guessing. Discover exclusive Audible originals, hotly anticipated new releases, and must-listen bestsellers that hook you from the first minute. Because Audible knows there's no greater thrill than the one that speaks to you. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat. Start your free 30-day trial at audible.com/WonderyUS. That's audible.com/WonderyUS.
Could have been maybe some of both. And apparently Vanessa constantly told Constance that she just wanted her family back. She was bullied by other children. Gibbs, they called her Hammer Girl because of her facial deformities.
Had to be tough, man.
Oh, all of this is extremely sad. I mean, she was isolated. She was shunned.
You got to remember, she was 4 years old when this happened. It had to be so traumatizing. She lost her sister, which was probably her best friend, her mom and dad, and then she has all these issues she has to deal with growing up.
Vanessa told Fox 9 News in 2018 that she became a drug addict. And at one point, Gibbs, she was homeless, living under a bridge in Arizona for a period of time. So, Gibbs, you had what was a very scary series of hammer attacks and murders, sexual assaults. You had communities in and around Denver that were scared. The residents were scared. They had to have been. They also wanted answers. You know, what was going on? Who was committing these crimes? And what was the police going to do about it? You know, how were they going to stop these? With each passing day, I think residents in a number of communities were terrified that they would be next. Gun and home alarm system sales soared after these attacks. Some housing subdivisions hired private security firms to cruise their neighborhoods. The authorities were investigating and searching for answers in all the cases, but they couldn't develop any leads. But after the murders of the Bennett family, there were no more hammer attacks or murders in the Denver area. 11 days after the Bennett family murders, on January 27th, 1984, in Kingman, Arizona, Roy Williams was sleeping when he was awakened after being struck in the head with a large rock. And Gibbs, this rock was said to have been the size of a football. Now, the rock that Williams was struck with was later found and was determined to actually have been a 25-pound piece of a concrete slab.
Well, that's going to hurt, man. 25 pounds of concrete slab to your face?
Yeah, it seems like that would not jolt you up out of bed. It seems like it would put you out. But Williams told Las Vegas 3 News, "At first, I thought someone just punched me right in the chin or something. The suspect got away and ran into a field, but the next morning at 7 a.m., as the suspect was hitchhiking, he was stopped by police, and as they questioned him, he took off. After a 30-minute chase, they caught him. They were able to match the soles of his shoes to footprints found outside of Roy's home. He was arrested and charged with the attack on Williams. The police identified the perpetrator as Alexander Ewing. Roy required 84 stitches to his head, and he also suffered a number of broken ribs."
It's a lot of stitches, man.
Well, a 25-pound concrete slab to the dome will do that.
Yeah.
I imagine it split it wide open. I mean, it's a wonder this guy survived.
It really is.
I would think that in a lot of cases, having a 25-pound slab of concrete forcefully slammed into your head would kill many people.
Yeah. I was beaten in my face when I was young with a rock to my chin area and my cheek. And I remember it split me open pretty good, and it hurt. And it was like a rock you'd hold in your hand. And so I couldn't imagine what it would be like to have a 25-pound piece of slab rock come down on your head. I'm surprised he was even able to stay awake at all. Like you said, I think it would knock you unconscious.
Rather than wake you up from a deep sleep.
Yeah.
Alexander Ewing was housed in the county jail in Utah because apparently the Arizona prisons were overcrowded. His case kept getting delayed. And then 8 months later, on August 9th, 1984, as he and 2 other prisoners were being transported for a hearing back in Kingman, Arizona, the deputy stopped to allow the prisoners to use a bathroom in Henderson, Nevada. As soon as the shackles were taken off his feet, Ewing took off and he managed to escape. He ran to a nearby Kmart, ditched his orange jumpsuit, and managed to leave the store undetected.
Didn't mess around, did he?
No. I'm also surprised that you're able to enter a Kmart in a prison jumpsuit and steal some clothes and leave undetected.
It's because everybody was too busy chasing down those blue light specials.
Probably, maybe.
You remember walking in there and they put that little siren
back in the day?
off?
Yeah.
You see all these people running to that sector or section or whatever you called it back then, and
well, it was usually Husky jeans.
well, that's true.
You were bowling people over to get
That's
to your
right.
Husky jeans.
Give me some new jeans. Let me go get them.
And just later that night in Henderson, Nevada, a couple was attacked with a pickaxe handle. Nancy Berry was getting ready for bed when a man wielding a pickaxe handle jumped into the bedroom she shared with her husband, Chris, and began pounding on her. She screamed "stop" multiple times until she had the instinct to play dead. And I think, Gibbs, this was a ploy that wound up saving her life. Her attacker left soon after because I believe he thought he had killed her. and instead went towards her husband. And this is when Nancy was able to dial the operator and ask for help. Hearing Nancy on the phone with the police, the attacker took off.
So it was smart, to do that, right? To play dead and get that opportunity for her to call the police as soon as he got away from her.
Yeah, because my thought is, what were her other options? She probably was not going to be able to overpower this man wielding the pickaxe. He's raining blows down on her. What's she going to do? I think the instinct she had saved her life, and also most likely saved her husband's life, because she was able to call police. And Gibbs, once police got on site, they couldn't believe what they saw. They later told the press that Chris was wearing white underwear and blood had soaked through it completely. It was all over his body. He was badly injured in this attack and had long-term effects from his injuries. Nancy broke bones in both hands as she attempted to protect herself from these blows that were raining down on her. She also sustained a severe head injury that required multiple surgeries. The couple's 2 children, they were home when this attack occurred, but they were unharmed. Sadly, Chris later passed away from a battle with cancer. The attacker was identified as Alexander Ewing. He escaped the scene. He was later captured near Lake Mead 2 days later. He was arrested, tried, and convicted for his assault on the couple. He was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, burglary, and escape, and after his conviction was sentenced to 110 years in prison. And I am totally fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
110 years sounds like a lot based on the cases that we do and the sentences that we see, but this was brutal. This was a brutal attack, and I have no problem if you want to send somebody away, because let's not forget, the guy had already escaped.
Right.
So you have to factor that in. You got away, and what was your first thought? I need to go kill some people.
Yeah. It's been a while since I beat somebody in the head, right? Last time I beat that guy in the head with a piece of concrete. I better get out there and find somebody else to go bludgeoned.
I think at that point, you're deemed incorrigible, and you should go away. In 2010, Denver investigators, through new DNA testing, confirmed that Patricia Smith's murder, as well as the murders of the Bennett family, were without a doubt committed by the same killer. Then in 2013, the state of Nevada required prisoners with certain types of offenses to submit DNA, but it was challenged in the courts, and it wasn't until 2016 that the state started the collection process. In July of 2018, the Denver police got notified that there was a hit in Codis on Patricia Smith's murder. On August 10th of that year, representatives from Aurora, Denver, and the CBI held a press conference. They announced that genetic material obtained from the Smith and Bennett murders had been linked to Alex Christopher Ewing. So Alex Ewing is suspected of being the Denver hammer killer. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and other crimes of violence for the sexual assaults, and that the murders occurred during the commission of other crimes, such as burglary and robbery.
Well, good. Science is working here.
Yeah, I continue to be amazed by what DNA is able to do, not only in identifying killers in cold cases, but also in proving that some people didn't commit the crimes that they were convicted for.
Yeah, it works both ways.
It really does. Investigators learned that Ewing had a lengthy criminal record. He had arrests and convictions in Florida and California going back to 1979. He was originally from North Carolina, but Ewing showed up in Colorado sometime around 1983. He got his driver's license that summer. 6 months later, in January, he began his series of attacks. Ewing fought his extradition for a number of years, but eventually they were able to extradite him. In June 2020, a judge found sufficient evidence to have Ewing stand trial for the Colorado crimes. The district attorney wanted to seek the death penalty in Ewing's case, but a judge ruled in February 2021 that due to sentencing laws in place when the crimes were committed in 1984, he wasn't eligible for the state's harshest penalty.
I always have a hard time with that.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they do it, but why does he get any special treatment?
Well, he doesn't get special treatment. Anybody else would get the same thing.
Yeah, I get you.
If someone else committed a murder in 1984,
they're going to get the same.
but they weren't caught or identified until now, the same thing would happen.
What I'm saying, I guess, is
something different than what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me hear it.
So what I'm trying to say is he decided to commit these murders and elude the police.
Mm-hmm.
So he forfeits the right to have the lesser of the penalty.
I get where you're going with it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with it because if he would have been caught back then, the maximum sentence he could have received was X.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, that's all it can be now.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's just such a horrible person.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for him, he had like almost a life sentence by the time he was identified.
Well, that's true.
Now, there are some people that committed crimes 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're identified later on. They're like 80 years old.
Yeah.
They lived their entire life free. Now that bugs me.
Right.
More so than this does, but I get what you're saying.
Because we know what he did.
And it was very brutal.
Right. And the fact, if you look at his mug shots, even his recent ones, he's so smug. It just really bugs me.
Yeah. I guess my thought is, now we still have to wait to see how this trial goes.
Sure. Yeah.
But regardless, I don't know that this guy's ever going to see the light of day.
I don't think so.
Regardless of how this trial goes. But if he's convicted, I think for sure he's never going to see the light of day. So I'm fine with that.
And knowing that he did what he did to those girls, that gets out, I don't know how much time he's actually going to be alive in prison anyway.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. They were very young.
Yes.
And as we know, other prisoners, they don't like it, and they don't like the people that do it.
Yeah, they have their own rules.
Ewing's attorney is fighting the claim that the DNA matches his client.
And why wouldn't he? That's his job, right?
Yeah, what else can he do? You got to attack the DNA because you present that DNA evidence to a jury. That's about as close to a slam dunk probably as you're going to get.
Right.
So the whole defense has to be around attacking that DNA.
Yeah.
You got to get out from under that or else, all hope is lost. I think the problem with this case is it's just had delay after delay. There was a trial date set for April of this year, but it was postponed. And right now, there's no date set in the future. We know there will be one.
Sure.
Just currently not. Now, some of that has to do with the pandemic, and we've seen that in a number of cases. On kind of a strange note, Gibbs, the Las Vegas Journal recently featured portions of Ewing's online dating profile. He described himself as a rugged outdoorsman.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he gets outdoors that often. Since he's been incarcerated since 1984. Unless you count that yard time as outdoors.
Well, yeah, he's outdoors.
Yeah.
He probably gets at least an hour a day.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's rugged outdoorsman type activities. They might have a rock climbing wall. You don't know.
I'm thinking any prison time out in the yard might be rugged.
It's going to be rugged, maybe a little scary. He also said he likes camping, exercising, travel, and animals. And he enjoys old cars and old movies. But he put in his online profile that he was, quote, no saint. At least he was truthful about that.
Yeah.
He said he was looking for a woman in her 50s to become a pen pal friend, but he's not looking for anyone to support him financially.
Really? Well.
So he's not looking for a sugar mama. As if he would find one anyway. He said that given his age and the length of his sentence, a letter, especially from a woman, would really mean a lot to him and give him something to look forward to. I don't think we should give this guy anything to look forward to.
No.
Please do not write this man. Don't spray perfume on a letter for this man. He also claimed to be religious and said that he's found Jesus. And again, you and I often talk about prisoners finding Jesus or, becoming very religious while they're inside. I think a part of me would say that if that is true, should he not then admit his guilt in the Colorado crimes?
Yeah. Save those families from going through a trial and reliving all that.
Yeah. But, I don't know, Gibbs. I will tell you this. There is one nagging thought that keeps running through my head as we kind of wrap up this episode. And it goes back to Ewing's attack on the Berry.
Yeah.
Now, we already knew Ewing was the killer.
Right.
Authorities didn't, but we knew it as we were going through the story, obviously. I can't help but draw similarities between the Bennett family and the Berry family.
Oh, yeah.
And wonder if Nancy had not done what she did.
Play dead?
Yep. If she had not acted as though she was dead and was able to call police, which scared him off, would he not have killed her husband, and then gone on to their 2 children?
Just like he did with the Bennett family.
Yeah. I mean, it's an extremely scary thought. Obviously, I'm glad it didn't happen that way.
But I think it probably would have.
Well, if he was able to do what he did to the Bennetts, and specifically to those 2 small girls, which we now have a pretty good degree of certainty that he did,
right? Or
obviously the police think he did. They've charged him. It's reasonable to theorize that he would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I'll be looking at this one, as the year goes on. I think we'll have a trial date sometime here in the fairly near future, I would think. If he's found to be the Denver hammer killer, the Aurora hammer murderer, whatever you want to call him, he's already a bad guy without that.
Yes.
But if he's found guilty of all of that, this guy, he is an absolute monster of the highest order. I mean, what he did and the way that he committed his murders and the rapes and everything about it was just pure evil in my mind.
You'll be lucky to survive in prison once that gets out.
I know your mind always goes to prison justice.
It does.
It can't help but to go there, and
I know.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I do think his attorney has a lot of work to do to disprove the DNA link.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty hard to do. If you want to raise some reasonable doubt around different types of circumstantial evidence, all right, I understand how that's done. Fighting a DNA match in this day and age, I think has to be pretty tough, pretty high on the pecking order of things that are hard to do when it comes to defending a client.
Right.
But that's it, Gibbs, for our case on the Denver hammer murders. We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Yes, hear them.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Daja. That's Daja. I thought it would be funny to hear Gibby try and pronounce my name. So I'm calling from Redmond, Oregon, and I just love you guys. I clean houses for a living, and I always got my headphones in, and I'm listening to you guys every shift. It's been a little bit harder for me to listen to your podcast lately because my best friend was actually just murdered in a drive-by shooting But, you know, I've been still kind of pushing through and still listening to you guys because you just make me smile with the banter that you guys have. Anyways, that's all. Just wanted to say I really appreciate everything you guys do and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Well, thank you. And obviously we're sorry to hear that your friend was killed. That's horrible.
It's rough, Taja.
But Gibby did say your name correctly. So
because she told me how to say it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
That helps.
It does. Yeah.
But we appreciate you calling in very much.
We do.
Hey, y'all, it's May. So I finally did it. I joined Patreon, and I'm at the warehouse loading, and I'm listening to the Castro case, the Black Widow. Devil's advocate, man. I completely agree. She did it. She's guilty. But about the cemetery thing, you know, I think Mike just said, how much can somebody really love somebody if they never go visit their grave? My daughter was murdered back in 2005. She was 2 months and 13 days old. She was suffocated by her real father. I have never been to visit her grave. It's something I've never been able to bring myself to do. And I had nothing to do with her murder. So devil's advocate on that. My father, he died back in 2008. And I've never been to see his grave either. My brother died, and I never been to his grave. I just can't do cemeteries. You know, when I say bye, I know you're not there. Your spirit's not there. So, but everybody's different. But I just wanted to say, yes, I do believe she killed her husband. But I have to play devil's advocate on that because I've never been to see any of my loved ones' gravesites. So. I love y'all. Gonna get back to my episode. Enjoying the Patreon. Y'all are amazing. You keep me going. Keep doing what you're doing. Love y'all guys. Bye.
Well, thank you, Ida Mae, and we love you. But, you know, what I will say, Gibbs, is I appreciate these types of voicemails. You and I also get them through emails and instant messages and things. You know, a lot of times we speak from kind of our experience until people open our eyes to their experiences.
Right.
And so sometimes we do forget that, okay, there are people that, like Ida Mae said, they don't do cemeteries.
Right.
They don't want to do that. It doesn't mean that they didn't love their loved ones, obviously.
They just don't do that.
But we may make a statement that's just really based on our kind of way of thinking, but we expand.
Yeah.
When we get this type of information, and it really helps us. And I think we grow and the podcast grows because we become more enlightened. And so it's all good.
Our eyes are open a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Donna. I live in Alabama. I just started listening to your podcast just recently. And of course I started with episode number 1 and am binge listening. I'm on, I don't remember the episode, but because I can't remember anything. Anyway, I'm on like 65. I just want to let y'all know that I love your podcast, and I'm hooked on it, and I will be listening all the way to the most recent one. And then I'm going to go to Unresolved, and I also want to listen to Criminology, and I'll get to those. But right now I'm just stuck on true crime time all the time. I want to thank y'all very much for doing this. I wish I could donate, but at this moment I'm kind of in between jobs and can't do it at the moment, but I would love to if I could. And again, thank y'all very much, and keep the good work up and keep your time ticking. Thank you. Bye.
Well, thank you very much for the voicemail and the kind words. So this will be like an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Gibbs, when she gets to Unsolved, and she'll hear her voicemail.
So sometime in 2022.
No, she's a binger. You don't
rolling.
know.
She's on a roll.
You don't know. Yeah,
right.
She's rolling. She's binging.
Later this year.
All right, buddy. So that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.